Michael. So I came here when I was 2 years old.
Wow, he's born.
Left Vietnam before I was 1, I believe. Right, something around there. So it's so interesting because I always think about everything that goes on in our lives shapes our perspective on things, right? And those perspectives, you shape enough of those perspectives, they become principles, and those principles become what we believe. And no agenda or anything like that, but I've learned, I saw firsthand my mother, my father, my aunts, my cousins, my uncles, my aunts. There's not a single family here that did not lose someone during the Vietnam, right? We have horrible stories about that. So we already count ourselves blessed, just as I'm said over here. Were we lucky or were we not lucky? And then, growing up, one of the first words I learned in Vietnamese was nah, right? Nah, bố mẹ, right? Bố mẹ had me come over here for opportunity, like Anmai talked about. And so for me, at a very base level, doing well in school, getting a job, being a good person, was barely scratching the surface of paying off that debt. And that's what I really want to think about, and what I want the youth to think about, especially those that are actually becoming first-generation Vietnamese Americans, that we are not. We're not even first generation, right? We weren't born here. And that debt doesn't get finished paying until we pay that forward. Right, I'm more than likely, I can tell, probably not the smartest person up here on the stage, right? So I like to simplify things. And when I think of, there's no way you turn on the TV nowadays and you don't hear about immigration and things of that nature. So one of the first things that I thought I had to do as a Vietnamese person in the United States is I had to represent Vietnamese people correctly, right? Because I didn't want to fast forward 20, 30 years later and people think, well, Vietnamese people are rapists and killers and murderers and things like that. And it's a perspective thing. When you simplify the idea of immigration, I'm a very simple-minded person. I think of it as very simple. We're all in our house, we're sleeping at night, 3 o'clock in the morning, someone knocks on our door asking us for help. We don't answer that door or we open the door, that's up to us. I don't blame the person that doesn't open the door for that person out there, because we could be afraid, we don't know who they are, they could be strangers. But in 1975 to 1997, 3 major countries, the United States, Australia, and Canada, opened their doors to us. That at some point, it's huge. That should fundamentally change our perspective on how we view the idea of immigration, right? If you want to see how humanity is going to become, just watch us go in and out of a door. Some of us hold doors for others. Some of us open the door, let it close behind the next person. Some of us sneak through the door so we don't have to touch the door, right? Right? But that tells you everything you need to know about humanity. What kind of person, what kind of people will we become? Because I can tell you right now, the nah isn't da. Just because we're successful and we can afford better things for ourselves, the nah is only possible if we understand that that needs to be paid forward to other Vietnamese generations, other refugees. We are not immigrants. That's a very key distinction we have to understand. Our people, and to Professor over here, when she was explaining kind of our war-torn history and our migration, we're not immigrants. We are political refugees. We didn't come here legally either. But by the grace of God and the graciousness of a few countries, we had another start and we had another life. And so for us, that's how I've learned to shape my perspective on things. And that's not to be political, that's not to be conservative, liberal, or anything like that. But I just hope you guys can slowly start to think about that with your children, of how you view things like that, before we were the first ones to shut our doors, because it's nice and cozy and we got in now and we're successful. So that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you, Trung. That is a really powerful message. And to